talk to Trump supporters and they be dumb as I don't care. They're yell stupid. When people say they voted for Trump, I always ask why, and they give me stupid answers. One of my ex-friends voted for Trump. Don't worry, y'all. I cut the off already. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. Before I cut them off, I asked, why did you vote for Trump? Because I want to know why you made such a stupid decision. So she tells me out of her own mouth that the reason why she voted for Trump is because she is a Christian woman and that Trump is for the Christians. And if you are a Christian, you need to vote for Trump. That is what she said.
This is TikToker Sid the Kid with a video that everyone needs to hear.
So, of course, I love a cute little argument. So, bam, I asked her, I said, so you're a Christian, right? She says, yes. So I said, you believe in God? She said, absolutely. So I said, okay, as a Christian woman, how does it feel that you voted for someone that created their own Bible? She looks at me like I just lied.
He didn't.
All right, now there's this, which is really the one that everyone at this table is talking about this morning. Former president turned Bible salesman?
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. I'm proud to endorse and encourage you to get this Bible. We must make America pray again.
Make America pray again. After launching sneaker and cologne lines last month, the former president, okay, so he's selling, this is, get this, the God Bless the USA Bible. That's in partnership with country singer Lee Greenwood. He takes the stage to Greenwood's music. It's only $59.99, and just for that, you get a copy of the Constitution, a copy of the Bill of Rights, a copy of the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Declaration of Independence, as well as the Bible, I guess.
And just today, the ex-president introduced a new product. The God Bless the USA Bible, named for country singer Lee Greenwood's classic tune. For just $59.99 plus tax and shipping, you can own an easy-to-read, large print copy. What makes this Bible so special? Well, as the website makes sure to note, in the frequently asked questions section, it is the only Bible officially endorsed by President Trump. And if you're wondering why a not particularly religious man would endorse a Bible, the New York Times explains, quote, he is getting royalties from purchases.
Back to Sid the Kid.
Like I just made a blatant lie. She said, well, that's not true. I said, it is. You know, we can Google it together if you like. You know, I'm a little messy like that. I said, we can Google it together. And we did just that. We Googled it on my phone and he called it the Trump Bible. So I asked her again, as a Christian, right? How does it feel to vote for somebody that made their own Bible? I thought that was blasphemy, but I want to hear your thought process. Go ahead. This looked at me dead in my eyes and said, Obama wasn't any better. No, who the f*** Obama?
I love this because it shows the MAGA mind in full effect, which reminds me of this. The birther movement was really big in evangelical circles. And then, of course, the presidency of Barack Obama, you would write, would strengthen evangelicals' sense of embattlement and embolden the more militant voices in the movement. I know we touched on Reagan and his impact, but what was the impact of Barack Obama being elected?
But what we see happening in 2008 is a small number of particularly young white evangelical voters defect, and they vote for Obama. Hope and change, right? This kind of colorblind, this is great, right? Isn't this what we wanted? Well, it's not what everybody wanted, certainly. And this is where you can see the right wing really double down.
This is Kristen Kobes-Dumais. She is a professor of history at Calvin University, research fellow, Center for Philosophy of Religion, and received her PhD at the University of Notre Dame. As she wrote the book Jesus and John Wayne, How White Evangelicals Corrupted a Faith and Fractured a Nation, I interviewed her on my podcast and covered this very topic.
You see the birther movement really take hold inside conservative evangelical spaces. Outside those spaces, you have Donald Trump. Inside those spaces, you have a lot of conservative white evangelical pastors also promoting, this conspiracy. And so there's this, what feels like a sea change, not just around LGBTQ rights with same-sex marriage, but just a sense, increasingly so, that white evangelicals had already lost the culture wars. Like it was almost a done deal. And so they need to dig in and understanding that they no longer have numbers on their side. And this is when you start to see an explicit abandonment of any commitment to democracy.
Which is what we are seeing being played out right now.
And so you see this amping up over the course of Obama's presidency. And, I will say that as somebody who's been in and out of this culture, has observed them closely for a very long time, so patriotic, so, God bless America and all about the the founding era, to see the pace at which so many have abandoned any commitment to democracy, to the Constitution, because of their sense of grievance or political agenda. Honestly, it has been not just disappointing, but really quite shocking. And to realize that, trying to say, well, what do you mean? What does this mean about democracy? Or, are you okay? Like, in a democracy and in a pluralist society, sometimes you're going to lose. Sometimes you're going to have to compromise your values with, the values of other citizens. No compromise can be had with the devil, with evil, right? And so what you need to do is just grab all the power that you can while you can still do it.
And to see how far we've fallen.
I voted for Trump.
Okay, and what was the number one reason for voting for Trump?
Personally, it doesn't matter who would be the person who is running for, as long as they're in the more conservative side, on the right side, because I lean more towards the Republican side, and it just aligns with my beliefs. And just personally, if it would have been anybody else, I would have still voted for the Republican side of the party, and it just aligns more with my religion and my personal beliefs. And personally, for the Democrat side, I just don't, personally agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you feel like at all bothered as a Christian that Trump is a convicted rapist?
I feel like I do personally, because, it's not what a person should do, and a person that should be as like someone leading our country. But, what happened, and I really can't do anything about it. And I just wouldn't vote for the Democratic Party.
Shout out to Black Menaces on TikTok. He does great work.
Abortion for sure is like the top, like I cannot negotiate on that one. So that's a big reason why I voted for him.
Okay. You mentioned like you're pro-life, right? Have you spoke up like in opposition to the children that died in Palestine?
Have I spoken up against that?
Yeah.
I haven't necessarily, no.
Okay.
It's really tragic, everything that has happened over in that area. And I think that there's been tragedies on both sides of Palestine and on Israel. So, I mean, ultimately, it's just, there's just so much violence. And I know this probably isn't the answer you're looking for, but like, when I see that, it just makes me really yearn for the return of Christ to save his children and to restore us and redeem us.
Sure.
So, take that for what it is. It's just what comes to mind when I think about that.
If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.